So many people that rise to the top, they hit the top of the popularity, they get to the top, but they're so young and so inexperienced. When you look back now and you think about what was thrust upon you, and I guess you did have that reputation as being a bit of a wild man. I mean, it must terrify you to think that things could have gone so wrong, couldn't they?
Oh, really? I mean, I'm lucky I've got the constitution of a horse, and lucky I'm sort of, and we always had a really big work ethic culture. So, as much as, we'd get wild and trashed and all that sort of stuff, the thing you got to remember, even in those early days of cultures, the most important thing in the world to us was to do a great show. And we wouldn't let anything get in the way of that, And if my behavior or our behavior affected that show for the worse, then the others would be the first to let me know, or I'd let them know if they were doing it, because the show came first. So even as in my wildest days, we had the show, first and foremost in our mind, and that's always been the way. That's the work ethic, that you have to have to work in this business.
Yeah.
Well, the party's all good, but if you let that consume you, you're not going to make it. You're not going to, you might make it, but you won't sustain it. To sustain a career for this long, is about sort of staying in touch with the people you're working with, and working for, which is the public. Knowing what they, listening to what they like and what they teach you. And try to grow with them, I mean, for me, one of the most important things is staying in the game. Just keep making music, keep learning, keep growing, keep changing. Don't nail yourself down or pigeonhole yourself, and just try and keep the creative side open as much as possible.
And don't live on past glories. You've got to keep going.
You're as good as your next record.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Was there ever that thought? I know you're a motivated person, but was ever that thought that maybe I've reached the peak, so let's go do something. Let's go do something normal.
Oh, listen, I'm human. You always have, you always doubt yourself, and you always have fears, and you always have all that sort of stuff. But it's you can sit and feel sorry for yourself for a minute and go, it's all over, or you can go, well, I reckon I've got something. I'm sort of a positive person, and I always go, well, I reckon I've got something to say here, or I reckon I can improve as a singer. I reckon I can become a better performer. And I reckon, more importantly, you're striving to become a better person, basically. And, and in the process of becoming a better person, everything else gets better too, So, that's the way I see it. I've never been too negative, I've been blessed. I've been really lucky. I mean, I've been doing this now, since 1973, like I said. I've been recording since 1976. I can't explain it. I just think, I think people like the fact that, I made my mistakes in public. I grow in public. Everything I do is not right, but every now and again I'll hit the thing right in the head, and it will work really well. And, I just keep trying. I think, that's the go, is if you keep trying and keep trying to grow and learn from mistakes. I mean, I've never, if you go along, and with a faultless sort of record, you don't really learn that much, Yeah. I learn more from my mistakes than I do, obviously, than from anything else. So, I reckon it's good to make some mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, and Australians
otherwise you don't learn enough.
Yeah, that's right. And Australians love that, don't we? We love the fact that we can relate to you.
Yeah, well, and I'm not, I don't care. I've got nothing to hide. I don't try to, pretend I'm something I'm not. I'm as flawed as anybody. And to the honest truth, for me, most of the time, in people, it's the flaws that I like the best. It's what makes them human.
Jimmy, have you recorded albums or songs and thought to yourself, this is going to be massive, and perhaps it missed the mark, it didn't capture the public attention, and vice versa? Other songs and albums you thought, maybe this isn't...
Not really. I mean, I remember when I recorded Working Class Man, and because I actually recorded it, and I flew to Tasmania from America because I had to start a tour before it was mixed, and I got the first mix sent to me while I was on tour in Tasmania, and I remember hearing that and thinking, this has got a real chance, because it just sounded good, and it sounded, like what we wanted the song to sound like, really. You think everything you do as a writer and when you make a record, because you make it, it's a very personal thing. You make them for yourself, and you think, well, this is a really good record. And sometimes people don't get it. But, you know, it doesn't mean it's not a good record, though. It's still a good record if it's done what you wanted to do, which is to say what you wanted to say in the way you wanted to say it. And, you know, there's records like Love and Fear, for instance, which, you know, probably sold, you know, a third as much or a quarter as much as some of the other records. But for me, it's one of the better records. You know, there's about 3 or 4 songs on that record that are always in my set that people really love. And people go, oh, gee, I didn't realize that record was so good. But, you know, that's just because, you know, whether I didn't communicate it properly or whatever, you know. So it's you know, you learn from your mistakes, and you know, I don't profess to know how to make a hit. I just make records.
Talking about making records, sometimes if you try and make a hit, that's often when you can miss the mark.
I think so. I don't, you know, you can't sit there and tell you, I'm going to write a song for radio or a song for America or whatever. The few times where I've you know, been in danger of that, you know, I've quickly snapped myself out of it and pulled myself together, you know. Some of the early periods when the American record companies were flying me over, you know, trying to write in America for America, you know, and you know, I just can't do that. I just have to write what I feel, you know, and you know, you learn from that and move on.
You've performed with some of the greats. I mean, you're a great yourself, Jimmy. But what was it like working with, you know, Rolling Stones, Tina Turner? The list goes on. They must be really pinch yourself sort of moments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like with Tina, for instance, you know, I got asked to do that for the rugby league, for an ad for the rugby league, and they came up to me and they said, "We want to pay you a fortune to go to Holland and record with Tina Turner." You know, I would have paid them a fortune.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
to get in the room with someone like Tina, who's someone I've looked up to for years, not only because of, you know, she's a great person and the battle she fought to keep her sanity and keep her life, but she's just a great singer and a great performer. And I went and I remember seeing her when I was 15, and you know, as a young boy standing there watching her, looking up and just thinking, what an incredible, you know, besides the great looking woman, incredible, you know, energy and the voice of doom. And to walk into a room many years later, as an equal to sing with her, and just realize that she's as good as she is because she's that bloody good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
she's as good as you thought.
Yeah.
Is it's satisfying. It's really great. Same with people like Joe Cocker. I've recorded with Joe Cocker, and Joe, you know, is one of these guys who's in a way a lot like myself, where he wears his heart on his sleeve, and people know he's had his faults and all that sort of stuff. But Joe's got this voice that, you know, I remember I was in the studio with him, and he started warming up, and it's just this huge barrel-chested voice.
Yeah.
It's like, scared the hell out of me. You know, and I just thought, yeah, this is what it's all about. You know, this is a man who's got scarred and damaged and worked and he's awesome. You know, and so, you know, I sort of, you know, that's the way I sort of look at myself. I try and sort of, you know, the mistakes and the faults, I try and wear them as, you know, it's part of life, and learn from them and move on and you know, try and make myself a better person from them.
Was there anybody that you modelled your career on? Was there one main influence or one person that you really looked up to?
Not really. I guess very early in the day. You know, I remember hearing like Free All Right Now on the radio, and that was sort of, I hadn't really realized, because I'd listen to soul singers and I'd listen to hard rock, and I never really realized you could merge the two together. You know, where you had that white soul singers playing with sort of rock and roll bands, and you know, and you can't say that without acknowledging people like Rod Stewart, early Rod Stewart, and you know, people, you know, Steve Winwood, Stevie Marriott, you know, all those sort of English singers that sort of learnt from the black R&B singers, but were in rock and roll bands. They were the ones I really liked, and sort of so I guess particularly that group of four were probably the most influential on me as far as white singers. At the time, you know, before that, I listened to Ray Charles and, you know, Wilson Pickett and Otis Redding and Little Richard and people like that.
Yeah, just incredible. Some of those names you've wheeled off. I mean, we're so lucky to have been able to hear what they've contributed to the world. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, and you know, and if you listen to sort of, you know, Paul Rodgers, he's sort of like Muddy Waters the way he sings, you know, in a lot of ways. You know, and after a few years of me listening to Steve Marriott, Muddy Waters, Rod Stewart, I suddenly realized, oh, they were listening to the same thing as I was listening to before, you know, and I could it's like that full circle thing happens. You realize, because Keith Richards said a great thing once, was he said he didn't want people to copy him, he wanted people to copy the people he copied.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's like all the blues greats were the ones he copied, and And that's where they're going to get better influences rather than trying to be influenced by him. So when I realized, suddenly I went back and went, the black singers, the gospel singers, the soul singers were the ones that were influenced in all my favorite singers anyway.
Everybody's got a favourite Jimmy Barnes song. What's Jimmy Barnes' favourite Jimmy Barnes song?
Probably at the moment, it's probably off the new album. Probably Stupid Heart, or Letter from a Dead Heart, or Larkspur Hotel. It depends, but it changes every day. I sort of like, there's an old one of mine called Do or Die, which I like, which is sort of, it's sort of a bit of a theme song for me, because it was, it's about sort of being thrown in the deep end and having to fight your way out, which I quite like, and I'm pretty good at, I like a good battle. But, like I said, that changes every day.
I throw out a couple of my favourites, Flame Trees and Forever Now.
Both great songs. I didn't write them, but they're both great songs, and, as far as, performing them, I do Flame Trees in my set most nights, and it's one of the there's about the top 4 songs that in my set of ones that really I know people like all the other songs, but there's 4 that really sort of the highlights for them: K-Fan, Working Class Man, Lay Down Your Guns, Flame Trees. And people, you get to those songs in the set, and from the first bar of the intro, that the energy levels of the crowd have suddenly lifted. Their hands are in the air, or their eyes are wider open, and you can just see the fun in their faces. And that for me is a great thing, and makes you feel like sort of we're doing something right, or it's worth playing this song. Even if I played it for 30 years, every night, it's not just about me, it's about the audience. And luckily, all those songs are good songs too. So so I mean, I think K-San now is as relevant as it was when it was written. When we keep getting involved in wars overseas, and for causes we don't really understand, and all that sort of stuff, and sending any young boy off to fight in a distant land, and it's just got to be a difficult thing to deal with.
You're certainly not slowing down. You've got My First Gig, which looks great. You're back with Cold Chisel. You've got the new album Rage and Ruin.
I'm touring. I'm having a ball. I'm enjoying work.
The new album Rage and Ruin. What's it like making music in 2010 compared to, say, 1985?
It's a lot. Well, obviously I'm a lot more confident. So I've been in a few times, so I know what I'm doing. Whereas probably in 85 or earlier, I was at the mercy to a certain extent of the producers, because the studio wasn't really my environment. Nowadays, I've got to the point where I realize that the most important thing is to have good songs. If you get a good bunch of songs, and you're confident with the songs, and then you just put really good players together, and you can walk in and make a record really, really quite quickly. I mean, my last bunches of records have been where they used to be counted in months, have been now counted in days. I mean, Rage and Ruin took 5 days to make. Rhythm and Blues took 3 days to make. Even back to Soul Deep. Soul Deep took 10 days to make. Love and Fear took 12 days to make. I've got to the point where I'm confident enough in my own ability, and confident enough in my ability to put the right players around me, that I can make an album work, and it's just a lot easier. And obviously, the technology side of things has changed that far. You really can do a lot more and a lot quicker these days.
Yeah.
And that's without skimping on quality,
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy, it's been lovely catching up with you. All the very best with the new album and everything that you're doing. And
yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, nice talking to you.
Well, I'm sure the 4BC listeners, we just, you mentioned Jimmy Barnes, and everybody loves you. So I hope you know it.
Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Well, I'm not going to go away anywhere in a hurry, so they can come and see us for years, I reckon.
Good on you, Jimmy. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks, mate.